Hello everyone, you are welcome to this tutorial. In this tutorial, I will guide you step by step on how to design and create an order management database system using Microsoft Access. This database will help us store and manage information about customers, employees, and the orders they handle. You do not need any prior experience with Microsoft Access for you to follow this tutorial. Just follow along carefully, and by the end of this video you will be able to design and populate a simple relational database. So the first thing first is to create the database file. Every database has to be saved in a file, a database file. So the first thing first is to create the database file. What do? Open Microsoft Access. When you open Microsoft Access, you will see blank database. Select blank database. After you have selected blank database, the next thing you do is to name your database. In our case, we are going to name it Order Management DB. Order Management DB. Then after that, choose the location where you want to save your file. When you have chosen the folder where you want to save your file, you then click Create. When you have done that, Microsoft Access opens a new empty database. This database will contain our tables, our forms, our queries, and our reports. So we're going to be demonstrating how to create a database. So let's go first of all and open Microsoft Access. To search for it, I'll type Access. Okay, Microsoft Access 2010 is what I'm using. Wait for it to load. Load. You will see that blank database was selected by default. It was selected by default. So having selected that, the next thing to do is to let me choose the folder where I want this file to be saved. It is going to be saved in my documents, but let me change it to my desktop. So I'll click on this folder option here, look for desktop, and say OK. Then I will now come here and rename the database. Like I said, we're going to be calling it Order _ Management _ DB. Make sure you put underscore, don't use space. If you use space, it will not be okay. So after you have done that, the next thing you click is Create. Once you have clicked the Create, the database will open with one table. It opens with one table, existing one table. We are going to modify this table. So we are going to be looking at how to now add table to your database. But before we start adding table to the database, we may have to understand the particular database we want to design, the real life database we want to design. So it is important to understand the real world system we are modeling. In an order management system, the customer places order. Yes, in an order management system, the customer is the one who will place the order. Then the employee is the one who processes the order. Employee processes the order, while the order itself will now be where the record of what was requested, who requested it, for whom was it requested, what date was this order made, and the amount involved in this order, and any other information you want to keep about the order. It is in the order table that we are going to have it. So it is the order that keeps that information. So we have three entities: customer, who will place the order; employee, who will process or handle the order; and the order itself that is placed. So in a database, each of these real world objects becomes a table, meaning that we are going to be having three tables, and these three tables are the customer table, the employee table, and the order table. These are the three tables we are going to be having in our work. So how do you create a table? That was where we were before we came to describe about this database we want to do. How do we create a table? To create a table, you get to the ribbon labeled create. You click on it. When you click on it, then you select table design. You select table design. Then after that, in the design view, you will define the structure of the table. So every table have rows and columns. Each of the column is a field, and each field is an information or attribute of the entity you want to keep data about. So assuming you have a customer table, what are the information you want to keep about customer? Each of these information that you want to keep about the customer or data you want to keep about customer becomes a field, like the customer name, customer ID, customer phone number, customer address. These are the fields that you will create in a table. So for each of the fields you will create in a table, you are going to provide a field name. For instance, customer ID is a field name. Then after that, you're also going to set the data type of the field. You're going to set the data type of the field. You're also going to set the other attributes of that field, other attributes of the field, such as the primary key, the number of tests. If it's a test data type, you have to specify the number of tests you want to be accommodated. Then some of the fields, if the data in those fields are required, you specify that it is required, meaning that if you don't provide them, you cannot save the data. So you can either declare a particular data field required or not required. So let's go back to the table we are working, or the database we are working with before. At the point we created the database, we saw that one table was already existing, called table 1. This table 1 is the name that the Microsoft Access gave to the table. We are going to be renaming it when we'll be saving this table. You can see no field is already provided except one field called ID. But we are going to, first of all, we are currently in what we call the data view. So we are going to come here, you will see view, you will click down, you will select design view. This is where we are going to be defining the structure of our table. So you click on design view. So when you click on design view, you are going to specify the name of the table. So let's call it customer. We'll call it customer table, and we'll click OK. So you can see that the name of that table have changed from table 1 to customer. So let's remember our fields. The first field is customer ID. Customer ID. Already, if you look at beside the customer ID, there is something that looks like a key. By default, Microsoft Access have made customer ID our primary key. It has made it our primary key. If I don't want it to be primary key, if you see here, you see my mouse here, you will see where they wrote primary key. I can click there. When I click there, it is no longer the primary key. But to make it a primary key, put your cursor on the particular field you want to make primary key, and you go and click primary key. It becomes the primary key. And we said it's going to be auto number. Then after that, we said the next field is the first name. First name, what is going to be? It's going to be test. If you come down, you will see field size. They wrote 255. That's too long. No name should be up to 255. We can make it 30 test. Then is it required? If you go down, you will see required. When you said no, that means if somebody does not provide a first name, the database will not have issue with it. But somebody should provide a first name in this. So I'll put yes for required. That means the person must provide value for the first name. Then last name is the next field. Is also test. We'll also make it 30 fields. Let me also make it required, meaning that you must provide it. Then after that, phone number. Phone number is also going to be test. Let's make it 14 characters, maximum of 14 characters. And let's make it required. You must provide a phone number for the customer. Then we have probably address. Let me just use address. On a very good day, we might have to have address, city, and state. But to avoid it being too long, let's just stop at address. It's going to be text, and it's going to be 255 characters is allowed. Then let's also make it required. Let's make it required. So I think that is all about our customer table. That's all about our customer table. So we'll go back to create. We want to create the next table, which is the employee table. So you go to create, you see form design. You click on form design. Sorry, it's not form design, it's table design I'm supposed to do. So I'll close this form design. I don't need it now. It's table design. So create is table design rather not form design. So when I open table design, so I'll see it's also named table 1 also, but don't worry about that. When you'll be saving it, it will give you the prompt to provide a table name. So it's employee table. So let's call it employee ID. Employee ID. We'll make it auto number and also make it primary key. Then after that, the other fields, the first name of the employee, let's say the last name of the employee, then the job title of the employee, job title. We can also have the phone number of the employee, phone number of the employee, and let's just leave it as this. So let's begin to handle their test. For the first name, let's make it 30 also, and make it required. We'll make it required. For the last name, let's also make it 30, and also make it required. For the job title, let's make it, what's it, 30, not bad. Maybe it's not required, let's leave it not required. Then for the phone number, we'll make it 14, and also make it required. Make it required. Okay? Haven't done that, these are the things we just want to keep about the employee ID, employee name, last name, job title, and phone number. So when you come here, you right click, it says save. When you click save, you now provide name for the table. So we'll call it employee table. Employees table. So we'll click OK. It has changed, and you see by the right we have 2 tables now. Then the next one is to create the other table. The other table. So we'll go back to create table design. Alright. The section is the order ID. Order ID, which we said is going to be auto number. Then we'll also make it the primary key. Click on primary key. Click on primary key. The primary key. Then what are the other items about the order? We have order ID, we have the order date, we have the order date, we have the order description, the description of the order. We also have amount. Good. Remember, we said that the customer places order. So that means there's a link between order and the customer. I also say that the employee processes order. There's a relationship between the employee and the order. So because of that, and a customer can place many orders, and employee can process many orders. So the relationship between customer and order table is one-to-many relationship. Also, the relationship between the employee and the order table is also one to many, because one employee can place many orders for different customers. So we said in class that when you have such a relationship, it is the many side that will hold the foreign key. So because the order is going to be on the many side, it is going to be holding the foreign keys of the customer and the employee. And the primary key of the customer table is customer ID. So it's coming in here as a foreign key. While that of the employee is, let's check it, is employee ID. So let's go back. Employee ID. So let's take note, they are not going to be text, because if you check the employee ID, it's auto number. The customer ID is also auto number. So the customer ID here is not going to be text. If we make it text, there won't be a match. So we're going to make it a number. Not auto number. Don't make it auto number. It's only auto number where it is a primary key. But where it is a foreign key, it's just going to be a number. It will match. Alright? Then let's look at for order date is date and time. Order date is date and time. Description is order date. Is it going to be required? Beautiful. Order date is going to be required. So let's put it, it's going to be required. Of course, customer ID is going to be required. It's going to be required. Employee ID is also going to be required. Even if you don't make it required, by the time we are going to establish relationship, it's going to be enforced to be required. So for amount is money. We are going to make it currency. It's going to be currency, not going to be. So also we're going to make it required. Let's make it required. Yes. Is there any other thing? Description? Required. Let's make it no, in case we don't want to make the description required. So we have created the three tables. We have created the order table, we have created the employee table, we've also created the customer table, but we have not saved the order table. So I will right click here and click on save. I'll provide it as order. I'll save it as order. So haven't done that. You'll see by my right, we now have three tables: the customer table, the employees table, and the order table. So the next thing we're going to be talking about is how to establish relationship between these three tables. So creating relationship, how do we go about it? You click on database tools. You click on database tools, then relationships, When you have selected relationship, a small table will show listing the names of the tables, all the tables you have in the database. So it will list the customer table, employee table, and the other table. I will have to add all of them. So I will have to add the customer table, employee table, and the other table. I will do that. Then creating the relationship. How do we go about creating the relationship between this table? So now, since we know that the customer ID is the link between customer and order, so I'm going to drag the customer ID from the customer table. I will drag it to the customer ID in the order table. That is to establish a relationship between the customer table and the order table. I will drag that primary key, the customer ID. I will hold my mouse, drag it, and put it on the customer ID of the order table. A relationship will be established. After that, I will click check enforce the referential integrity, and I will then click create. You have to do this. Then for the employee ID, employee table, and the order table, I will also drag the employee ID from the employee table to the employee ID in the order table to establish relationship. I will drag the employee table from the employee ID from the employee table to the employee ID of the order table. After I've done that also, I'll also click on enforce referential integrity. Why are we doing that? When you enforce referential integrity, it ensures that every order must belong to a valid customer. There won't be any order that doesn't belong to a customer, and there won't be any order that is not handled by an employee. So that is why it is essential you will click on enforce referential integrity. So let's go back to our database and demonstrate this. All right, we are back to the database. As you can see, the employee table, the customer table, and the order table are all open. So, but for you to be able to create a relationship, all these tables, you have to close them. If you don't close them, you will not be able to create a relationship between them. The reason is that any item that is open is locked by Microsoft Access. You cannot manipulate them. So we have to close it, close. I can just say close all. Do you want to save changes to, okay, if there are changes, okay, let me just say yes. So I have closed all now. I have closed all now. Remember the steps, say go to what? Go to database tools. When I go to database tools, what do I see? Relationships. I'll click on relationships. When I click on relationships, I'll see all the tables in my database. The ones I want to create relationship with are the one I'm going to add. So in our case, there will be a relationship between the three of them because customer is related to order and employee is also related to order. So I'll be adding each of them. I'll click on add. I'll select employee, I'll click on add, I'll select order, I'll also click on add. Once I've added all the table, I will now close. So now I want to establish a relationship between the customer table and the order table. And we said what they have in common is the customer ID. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to drag customer ID from customer table and link it with the customer ID of good. You can see a table comes up, say I'm matching customer ID from customer table with customer ID from order table. Then I'll say enforce referential integrity. I'll click on it. I'll say create. A table has been created. You'll see on the customer side there is a 1. On the other side there is infinity. That is a sign of one to many, one customer to many order. So we are going to be doing the same thing for employee and the order table. So I will click on employee field and match it with the employee ID of the order table. All right, I will say enforce referential integrity. I will say create. As you can see, we have created a relationship. These three tables are now related. They are now related. You can drag it and arrange it as you like. Customer has a one-to-many relationship with order. Employee has one-to-many relationship with order as well. So we have created the relationship. So what do? You can save the relationship. Save the relationship and you can as well close it. Now, having closed it, you can now open any of these tables and begin to fill them with records. But if you want to fill them with records, it has to be in the data view. We have data view and we have what we call design view. Design view is where you design the table. Data sheet view is where you provide data. But let's just demonstrate one or two things. We are rounding up at this moment. So let's see. Order ID is auto number, so we don't have to provide that. For the date, we can provide a date, TTT, then description, amount, you provide the amount, maybe any amount. Customer ID, we provide 2. Employee ID, we provide maybe 1. But there is a problem. If you want to save this table now, you say you cannot add or change a record because a related record is required in table customer. Remember, there is a relationship between customer ID and order ID. And we said, before you can create an order, there must be a customer who owns that order. So when we provided order ID to be 2 and the employee ID to be 1, the database checked in the customer table, there is no customer that have customer ID 2 and there is no employee that have employee ID 1. So this data will not work. So that means that we can actually not, we cannot fill the order table until we have filled a customer table and an employee table. So let's just create one customer table. First name, let's call him John. John Paul. Phone number 0807 56 this. Then address, maybe Archipoli. Let's just call it Archipoli. For the next person, Ede Paulina. Phone number 0806 this. Archipoli again. Okay, let's say just Igbe Road. I'm just using fictitious data because of time. Alright, then we'll have another one. You can see I'm not the one putting the customer ID because it's auto number. Because it's auto number, that's why you are seeing it this way. So we have the last name and okay, let me just say Yusuf Aisha. Phone number 0803 this. Okay, sorry, but let's say Warake Road. Alright, there is something you will see a plus sign. It shows that customer table have a relationship with order. That's why you are seeing a plus sign, but we are going to get to that later. So I think these are just the 3 fields we want to submit for. The phone numbers are too long. I can delete it. Then I made it 14. So let me not make it excess. It should not be how many numbers to make the phone number. I don't know, but see, when you are doing the real thing, you enter the right data. So we are done with that. We can save this table. You can see this one was able to save because of what? Because it doesn't depend on any other table. Customer table does not depend on any other table. Let's go for employee table. Employee table, so the employee first name, Maria, last name, Eshona, job title, maybe manager, phone number 0808 9 this. Then another, okay, we have Kenneth or Ken Mike, and is a maybe sales manager, phone number 0809 this. Then let me just add a third one, Ada Okon is also a sales rep. Provide a phone number for him or her. 5 this. Alright. Also, you can see we can save employee table. The reason why we're able to save employee table is because employee is not dependent on any other table. Now let's go for order table. Now that we are going for order table, let's pick an order date. The order date, let's say 20th. Description, okay, let's say inverters, amount, this customer ID, that's customer ID 1, employee ID 3 was the one who sold it. Let's see now, it's accepted. The reason why it's accepted because it cannot match. There is already a customer existing, there's an employee existing. So let's pick another one more, just one more because of time. What item? Okay, let's say panels. How much? Just $6,000 or $50,000. Customer ID. The customer ID that did that is customer number ID 3. The employee that did it is employee number 1. So we can save now. If you save, it will work. The reason why it is working is that the customer ID we are providing are already existing. The employee ID we provided already existing. So let's go back to the customer ID, customer table, and see something. Customer 1, let's see whether it has an order. Customer 1 has no order. Let's say customer 2. You can see that customer 2. If you check under order ID, you see we have customer ID number 2. He placed an order. So we'll go to customer. The customer with customer ID 2, we are seeing his order. Let's go to the customer with customer number 1. We're also seeing the order of the customer with customer ID 2. So there's now a link. You are seeing that link. That from a customer table, I can see his or her order. You can see that customer 1, I can see that he was one that placed this order. If I also check employee, I can see the employees that placed order. Whether employee 3, did employee 3 make any order? Yes. Employee was the one who placed the order for the inverters. What of employee 2? Did you place any order? Employee 2 did not place any order. What of employee 1? Who placed the order for the solar panels? You see that was placed by employee 1. We are seeing that it's appearing under this. So for now, this is what we are going to call it a day. What have we just done today? We were able to create a database. We created the 3 tables that makes up the entities of this database. After that, we now establish the relationship between these 3 tables. Then we now decided to populate it from the data sheet view. In our next video, we are going to be looking at how to create data forms so that we can see how to create forms from which we can also populate our tables. This is where we call it a day. Thank you so much, and God bless you.